So, serious question. If cultural appropriation is wrong, how evil must gender appropriation be? I mean, culture is largely a construct of preferences, aesthetics, foods, dance, styles, geography. These are all fairly superficial things that can be changed and shift and move throughout time. Gender is a biological, scientific, and DNA level fact that can't be changed. But it's not wrong to appropriate it? I'm confused. Hey everybody, Caleb here. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. Today I want to talk to you about 3 tips for a better Virginia tobacco smoking experience. Stick around to the end of the video for a bonus tip, number 4. But let's talk about 3 main tips that I have for making sure you have a better Virginia experience. Thanks for joining me again. Okay, not a super long video today. Virginia tobaccos are one of the most dynamic tobaccos there are. They have a lot of flavor, they have a lot of life, they have a lot of character to them, but you can sometimes find them a little bit difficult to smoke. So I came up with 3 of my opinions, tips of what makes the overall experience of Virginia tobaccos maybe a little bit better. Maybe something you have thought of before, something you already do, maybe something you haven't. Today I am enjoying it with a little bit of CAPSTAN Gold. CAPSTAN Gold, made by Mac & Barron. It's a Navy Flake, Gold Navy Flakes what it's called. Basically just bright Virginias pressed into flakes. That simple. Nothing complicated about it. It's a very uncomplicated blend, a very enjoyable blend. It is a venerated blend. I mean, it's been around a while, so it's a good Virginia overall, I think. Especially if you're kind of new to Virginias. Now, personally, I don't like topped Virginias. Topped Virginias, to me, give me a chemical, there's kind of a chemical imbalance, I guess, with some of the toppings they put on, like CAPSTAN Blue, and I haven't had a great experience with them. They kind of give me, like, really bad tongue bite or really acidic taste in my mouth, and not really great overall. So I've kind of stuck with CAPSTAN Gold because it's pure Virginia. It's a lot like Mac Barron's HH Pure Virginia. So, let's talk about tip number 1. A lot of Virginias come as a flake, like CAPSTAN does. Flake, like that. That's a flake, more or less. It's a busted up flake, falling apart. The flake tobaccos are not rubbed out. They're not chopped up and diced like a ribbon cutter, dice cutter, or whatever. So what you need to do, tip number 1, rub it out, break it up, crumble it. Make sure you break it down into smaller pieces. Not a super complicated process. Really just goes like this. Fold, crumble. You can do it like this on the on the table or in a ceramic, and then stuff it in your pipe. That's as complicated as I get. Now you could just do a fold and stuff like this as well, but Virginias, being as how they tend to, so Virginias, when they come in a flake, they tend to be a little more moist. You break it up, you get a little more air around it, you let things dry out a little bit. It's called rubbing it out. You're gonna have a little bit easier time lighting it and keeping it lit overall. So the more densely packed the flake is, the harder it is going to be to keep lit. More potential for tongue bite and that kind of thing. And that brings me to tip number 2. Make sure you pack it light. You don't want to go just jamming and ramming tobacco into your pipe. And it's kind of universal overall. You want to pack your Virginias a little on the light side. And get them lit, get the char going, get them fired up, and then tamp them down a little bit. Get your tamper and start to compress it just a little bit. I don't usually compress my Virginias very deep until after I've already got them lit. I've got a little ash going, and then I'll start to mush it down to what you may think of a more regular type of pack. So I always go a little bit lighter than I do with Burleys. Burleys, you can get away with a little bit of heavy packing and stuff like that because they tend to rise up. Burleys tend to like expand really well when you light them. They rise up really good. So the Virginias, pack it light, light it, tamp it down a little bit, relight, and work your way into compressing the bowl into a nice smooth burning little ember. And that brings me to tip number 3. With Virginias, smoke slow, sip slow. Being as how they are a little bit sweeter, they're the sweeter of the two main types of leaf, they tend to be a little hotter. And naturally, when things taste delicious and taste sweet, which Virginias do, they have gray, they have hay, they have gray. They have grass, hay, citrus, bread. They have all these wonderful tastes to them. And as such, we tend to puff on them a little hard, a little fast. At least I do. So if you purposefully slow yourself down, sip on them really slow, you can get more of that vinegary, tingly, spicy, like sweetness out of them without the tongue bite. Yeah, sip them slow. There's no need to be in a rush. That's a really good smell in Virginia. And that brings us to the bonus tip. And I have it in my hand. Virginias, I've found, personally, tend to smoke a little bit better in longer stemmed pipes. Longer stem, theoretically more time for it to cool down, and a straighter stem versus a really dramatic bend. So longer, more or less curved stems, let's put it that way, with taller bowls. Taller bowls, you don't get big gulping breaths of air into the bowl. You kind of concentrate and slow down the air. And this is just personal experience, I tend to get better Virginia experiences with longer stems, taller bowls. Not necessarily thin bowls, but just taller. Because it's a simpler tobacco. It's not a complicated tobacco. Something like a demi-warden or church warden, or this is my Nordesian. One of my Nordesians, I like smoking Virginias in this. I always get a really good experience out of it. These can really help improve your Virginia smoke overall. Alright, so just for fun, I'm going to cap off this video with a little bit of a quick review on CAPSTAN Gold. Okay, now this isn't going to be super in-depth about CAPSTAN Gold. This is just an impression. It's a clean, straight, pure Virginia. Bright. Blended into a flake and pressed. No topping, no casing. And I like that kind of thing in a Virginia. I tried the blue, which was really popular, largely because it's close to what J.R. Tolkien smoked. As I stated earlier in the video, though, I didn't really... Something about the topping that is on it, because the blue has a topping on it. It's like a sweet citrusy topping. It didn't work with my palate at all. So I prefer the gold over the blue, and I've had a really good experience. I'm going to sock away a lot of this. It's got more of a... It's kind of... It just has more of a grass and hay note to it that is natural, like calm and natural. It doesn't have a lot of the dark Virginias in it, or the red. So overall it's a sweeter and brighter blend to me, and it tends to smoke a little cooler than the blue did too. Now I have been drying out the flake when I crumble it up. So I break stuff, or break and crumble as stated in my, and rub it out as stated in earlier in the video. I break it and crumble, and then I'll usually let it dry for about 20 minutes. And this is a fairly fresh tin. I think this tin was only made February. So February of last year, so February, no. Oh, this one's over This is 2023. Yeah, so this is over a year old. This is made in February 20th, 2022, so it actually has some good age on it. It's got a good years of age on it, so it was still plenty moist when I opened it. That would explain why it's smoking so good. Yeah, and why it tastes so good. Has a lot of richness to the flavor. All right, that makes more sense. Just look at the date on this thing. It makes a lot of sense why it's mellowed out, and it's not as sharp. All right then, my suggestion for Capstan Gold: age it for a year, because I did that inadvertently. Age it for a year, crumble it up, let it dry, pack it light, tall pot, long stem, and smoke it slow. Thank you for joining me again. Have a blessed life. I hope you find fair winds, good friends, cool Virginias, and a good smoke.